Yes, this is John G. Sutton. Thank you very much for watching this Tales from the Jails. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about an inmate who believed he should have special privileges because of his previous position in society, and being the jailer that was in charge, I didn't think he should have. So we had a little disagreement. I'm going to tell you what happened. Are you sitting comfortably? Before I start, just let me tell you this. I have been receiving some rather pointed criticism. People alleging that, or a person alleging that I've been cashing in on my experiences and treating the the subject of abuse of inmates and prisoners with a little bit too much levity and jollity, as this is not something to be laughed about. Yeah, well, it isn't when you're on the receiving end, I agree, and at the time I didn't find it particularly amusing, but to maintain my sanity, I have looked at this with rather an amused perspective. You may not subscribe to that. If you'd had a kicking down the block, then I'm sure you wouldn't. But anyway, let me get back to today's subject. It concerns a former Cabinet Minister who set up his own bank, which he did. He set up his own bank, former Cabinet Minister, and all the people who deposited money in his bank, he stole it, and he did a disappearing act. Left his clothes on a beach in Australia and faked his own death. And the man was called John Stonehouse, who was the last post office minister, the last minister for the post. After that, the role was disbanded. Anyway, following his arrest and subsequent imprisonment, John Stonehouse was located at the Scrubs. Believe this or not, he was located on A-Wing, and whilst there, the governors seemed to entertain themselves by pandering to this thief's personal desires. He liked to play chess, so believe it or not, a number of the governors used to go and play chess with him at lunchtime. He also complained about the radio system in the workshop where he was placed. He said he couldn't listen to the noise that was on. It was Radio 1, I believe, or Radio London, or whatever it was. He insisted on, if there was going to be Radio 1, that it would be Radio 3, which is, if you like classical music, then Radio 3 is what you should be listening to. But Beethoven, Mozart, Stravinsky and all the rest didn't go down too well with the other inmates who wanted to listen to Jerry and the Pacemakers, etc. So he caused some aggravation there. Anyway, John Stonehouse had a health problem. He had a heart attack, and he was taken out of the Scrubs into Hammersmith Hospital, which is about 150 yards, 200 yards away up Duquesne Road, and he was located in the hospital there whilst he was receiving treatment for his heart complaint. And as he was a serving prisoner, he had to have a prison officer with him. And on this particular day, that prison officer happened to be me. So I arrive at the bedside of John Stonehouse, basically introduced myself, said, I'm your prison officer today, trust you that you're being cared for. He just looked at me, said, I don't care, I'm just sat by the side of the bed, making sure that this man does not escape because he's still in custody, yeah? He wasn't handcuffed, he was just in bed. So it gets to be about 10:30 in the morning, and John Stonehouse says to me, Officer, he said, would you go to the canteen and get my copy of the Times and a bottle of Lucasade? I said, I think we've made a mistake here, you know. Me, prison officer, you, prisoner. Get the idea? You stay here, I make sure that you don't escape. Oh, really? He says. So, 5 minutes later, the nursing sister was going past and he called her over. And, I don't know, couldn't hear quite what he said to her, but it was obviously something along the lines of this jailer will not go and get my... So she turned to me and said, Officer, will you go to the canteen and get Mr. Stonehouse's copy of the Times and a bottle of Lucasade for him? I was quite surprised to hear this. I mean, so I asked the nursing sister what was her duty. You know, what job are you employed to do here, sister? What are you doing? I'm in charge of this ward. I said, yes, and I'm in charge of this prisoner. This is a Home Office production, and I carry a warrant from the Queen, from the government, that empowers me to make this man stay where he is in custody. And you are empowered to go about your nursing duties, and in the event that you attempt to interfere with this Home Office production again, I will have no qualms in reporting you, and not to the prison but to the police, because it's a criminal offence to interfere with a Home Office production. Now you go about your nursing duties whilst I maintain the security of this prisoner. You should have seen her face. She looked like she'd been slapped with a wet fish. She was horrified. You know, I mean, but what did she expect? I mean, for all I knew, she could have been part of a plot to enable John Stonehouse to escape. And let me tell you this, he was a right snotty bastard. He actually thought he was at the Ritz or somewhere like that. Oh, go and get me my copy of the Times, and I'll have some Lucasade while you're at it. Oaf. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, except it didn't work. Or did it? No, come on. You're reasonable people. Okay, I'm being a little bit amusing with the way I'm telling this story, but that's the truth. Yeah? So what would you think happened next? I expected that she'd get about doing what nurses do, and that Stonehouse would get about doing what patients do. And that's improving in his health and staying in custody with a prison officer by his side, i.e. me. But that, dear friends, is not what happened. About half an hour later, an officer came from the Wormwood Scrubs and he said, Mr. Sutton, you've got to report to the chief officer. You've been replaced. I said, who's replaced? Who's replaced me? He said, oh, the chief officer has sent me to tell you to go into the Scrubs. He wants to see you immediately. Right, okay. Well, I knew this officer. I knew who he was, so he was a prison officer. So I handed over John Stonehouse to him, intact, in bed, hadn't escaped. And I went to see the chief officer. And into the Scrubs, into the chief officer's office, knocked on the door. Come in, he said, I want a word with you. I said, good, yeah, what is it you want? He said, you've been causing trouble at Hammersmith Hospital. I said, trouble? I said, did the prisoner escape? No, he said, it's not that. I said, well, if the prisoner didn't escape and the prisoner is still in custody, albeit in the hospital, what am I supposed to have done wrong? He says, you do not address the nursing staff like that. I said, listen, any nursing staff or anybody who interferes in a Home Office production contrary to the Prison Act of 1953 has committed an offence, and in the future I won't tell them to go away, I'll just have them arrested. I said, and as for you, your job is to make sure that the prisoners remain in custody. That's my job. I'm a prison officer, yeah? I'm not a redcoat. The chief officer was not amused and pointed at the door and said, "Get out of my office." It was a pleasure, really, because the idiot didn't know what he was there for. He thought he was running fucking Butlins. Thank you very much.